Hi, this is Dino Poenitz from the Hill Street Country Club. I would like to welcome everyone to Into the Current by Janis Jones. And I'm very grateful today because Janis and I know each other from community work. It's only right that we continue to have these community conversations and share them with people who don't know the work that we do. And I'm so grateful that Janis is an artist, an educator, an ally, and an activist in North County. Like without her, I would not have the understanding of how bad and selfish we are to our environment. And so I'm very grateful for this opportunity for us to continue this conversation that I have had with Janis and that she has had with others in our community, with people who don't know her. And moving forward, I just want to remind everyone that after the open reception, there's going to be plenty of opportunities to learn more about the exhibitions. And so there will be workshops, there will be talks, there will be special guest panelists. So please stay in tune. And if you have questions, hold them to the end of the talk. I'm going to introduce our today's host from Only Loser Litter, director and artist, Lex Posh. I can't even say your name. I fucked it up. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. You know, I love you so much.
You know what? I can't say last names. So like work with me, you guys. I'll work on it. But I'm so grateful. Lex is like the homie. She's known for her work at Backfin Society and Vista, but they have done some awesome things with trash cleanup and creating like this very performance artist approach to it, where they wear capes out in the community and pick up trash, and there's like a contest at the end who picked up the weirdest trash. But they also adopted a part of our freeway, and I'm glad that Alexis is going to be the one having this conversation with Janis, because they both understand the North County landscape politically, community wise, and environmentally, and also about our habits. So passing the mic over to you, Lex.
Oh, thank you so much, Dinah. I'm so excited for this exhibition by Janis. The installation, I can't wait to see in person. Janis, thank you so much for all of the hard work that you put in through our community. I also know you personally, so that's fun and exciting. We're trash cohorts. We've picked up trash many times together, and you're actually the one that inspired us to go forward with the adoption of the on-ramp. So thank you so much for getting us even more involved. I can't even thank you enough for that. Just a little quick Only Losers Litter synopsis. Like Dinah said, we're a Vista located monthly trash cleanup crew. And right now we're just focusing on various parts of Vista. We host monthly trash walks, as well as our monthly commitment to our Melrose on-ramp. So you can get more information here. If Delana can put in onlyloserslitter@gmail.com into the chat for us. If you would like more information about our monthly cleanups, you can shoot me over an email and I'll get you added to our monthly newsletter. So thank you so much for that. Without further ado, Miss Janis Jones. Yes, let's get into your presentation. Let's see here. So the exhibition is Into the Current. And can you tell me a little bit about the name? How did you come with this name?
I want to start by thanking Dinah for her community activism, for offering this space to artists of all types to showcase very important topics, not just environmental topics, but social topics. You name it, she's out there front and center doing this work and making it visible. And also to thank Alexis. She's my trash buddy, and Only Losers Litter highlights the fact that it's not just a problem on our beaches and in the ocean, it's an inland problem. And everything that we do in our inland communities eventually affects the environment, whether it be the creeks that run through Vista, the watershed that leads out to the ocean, everything is connected. So I participate in Only Losers Litter cleanups and in the on-ramp cleanups, which I was bummed to have to miss this morning. Alexis and crew was out there cleaning up their ramp this morning, but I was prepping for this and didn't make it. So in so many ways, we're all connected in North County, and I just appreciate everyone here. Everyone's support is amazing. So Into the Current represents the fact that our trash in Oceanside and in Vista can actually enter into the ocean currents. And once in those currents, it swirls around into areas called garbage patches. And many people are aware of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. That's the one that came to be known over 20 years ago when it was first discovered. But there are actually 5 garbage patches around the world. There's the North Pacific, South Pacific, North Atlantic, South Atlantic, and there's a patch in the Indian Ocean as well. So these currents are accumulating plastics in our oceans. And so there are 5 of these installations to represent those 5 garbage patches.
Wow, I wasn't aware that they were all significant enough to have their own names. And yeah, that's the new information for me. Thank you, Janis.
The Great Pacific Garbage Patch, the one in the North Pacific, is the largest and the most well-known, but it is important for people to recognize that this is happening everywhere around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into our presentation here. If we could see the next slide there, Asher, please. All right, Calamity Clown. Janis, I have to say that I absolutely love your Instagram feed. And for those of you who are not following Janis, maybe we can put her IG handle in the comment as well, the chat as well. Your art is moving. And then once you get into a closer look at it, you realize, oh, and then it's a layer of moving. So if you could talk a little bit about Calamity Clown here, where you found those pieces, what inspired this, maybe meaning for you behind it.
I should also add, as far as the Into the Current and all of these pieces, this is all debris that I've cleaned up off of North County beaches, mostly Carlsbad and Oceanside. And it's all unaltered, so none of it was painted, cut, fabricated in any way. It's just as I found it. I actually made Calamity Clown for a pop-up show that was hosted at the Back Fence Society in Vista, which is another group. Alexis, Only Losers Litter is under the Back Fence umbrella. And it's a art group, an art clubhouse run by Sarah Spinks, another person who I admire very much. And so there was a pop-up show, a clown show. I can't remember what it was called. Do you, Alexis? Was it just called the clown show?
You know what? I don't recall, but we can get that information.
It doesn't matter. It's just that was the inspiration for this. There was an art call for clowns, and I thought, well, I'm going to challenge myself and try to make a clown out of my marine debris. So I called it Calamity Clown, obviously, because calamity is, the definition of it is great harm and distress and suffering. And so the distress and suffering that plastic pollution is causing was the inspiration for the name. And it's not just, we tend to think about the calamity of plastics as associated with marine mammals, whales, dolphins, sea turtles, etc. But people don't always think about the impacts to people. And there are people here in the United States and around the world who live in what are known as fence line zones. Fence line zones are areas near facilities that emit pollutants. It could be incinerators, it could be dumps, it could be plastic pollution manufacturers. So of course, the environmental calamity is disastrous, but the calamity and the impacts to people in fence line zones is equally, if not, is more of an impact that is often not considered.
Yeah, that's definitely a less visible and less talked about climate crisis, little part of climate crisis that we need to talk about.
Yeah, so then I also want to wrap that together by saying that it signifies the urgency of the problem, but I always want to think about the things that we can do, because if you just consider it from this calamity perspective, it can be overwhelming. But individuals can do lots of things like refusing single-use plastic items and considering, do I really need that plastic straw or that plastic utensil? Can I take my reusable bag? Those are all simple things we can do. Everyone can participate in a cleanup, whether it be in the community with a group like Only Losers Litter, or at the beach with an organization like Surfrider, or just walking the neighborhood and picking up trash. Everyone can do that. As someone mentioned, the other thing we can all do is write letters. We can send letters to our elected officials. We can write to corporations who aren't giving us options. When we go to the grocery store, it's almost impossible not to pick up something wrapped in plastic, and we should be able to easily obtain things that aren't in plastic. And by advocating, we can start to make those changes.
Yeah, and kind of on that same note, I would like to highlight your advocacy for the ban of single-use items in North County, and applaud you for how much dedicated work that you put into that. And seeing that we had this like little victory in Vista, like I'm so excited for that. That makes me so happy. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And thank you for your support. And for people who don't know, Vista actually, very surprisingly, is the first inland city in San Diego County to adopt a single-use plastic ordinance. The first phase of it went into effect on August 1st, and food service providers are not supposed to be automatically distributing straws, stirrers, utensils, condiment packets without customers requesting them first. I think even though it's now an ordinance, it's now a law, there's still a lot of growth and a lot of learning that needs to happen on the part of the businesses and the consumers.
You know, and I don't want to put all the onus on us being the consumer, but it doesn't hurt for, you know, us when we get that extra something in our bag that we didn't ask for to say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and give this back to you. Or, hey, you know what, just for next time, if you wouldn't mind asking, you know, just to kind of like maybe put it in the ear of the person that's actually bagging your items versus just, you know, yelling at the top head poobah of the company, you know, just putting in the person's ear, like that one-on-one communication, I feel like can go a long way as well. So
excellent point. And those are the little communications that are tiny ripples that lead to bigger change. Yeah. I remember you recently told me a story of ordering a burger for takeout. I think you said you ordered a burger and fries and they threw in 4 forks with your order. Is that right?
Yes. And I ordered a, you know, one burger, you know, like one sandwich, and, you know, it came with a side of fries, and they gave me ample napkins and 4 forks. And I was just like in my head thinking, you know, this person was probably just rushed and just grabbed a handful. But I mean, that's something that maybe if I had caught that while I was still in the play, the establishment, I could have been like, hey, you know what, let me go ahead and do these back to you. They were pre-wrapped, you know what I mean? There wasn't any kind of sanitary situation. Like they were already pre-packaged, like the fork and the napkin together. And I could have easily given that back. So that was something that I reflected on too after that it's just one of those things. It's one of those things that if we have those little gentle conversations, maybe we're breaking somebody's habit that they hadn't even considered yet. So kind of hitting at it from all sides might be the best way to get desired results. So
exactly, yes.
yeah. If you don't mind, let's go ahead and see what we have on our next slide here. Oh, so we have sad face and we have first world coconut juice. You want to give us a little bit of background on this?
Sure. So in addition to the things that I make, I actually started by taking photographs of what I found at the beach. And the sad face ball is one of the first photos I ever took of something unnatural found on the beach. So it represents the kind of the beginning of my journey along this path. But that journey actually started much longer ago. And my sister, who may still be in the Zoom, she is my inspiration. She and her husband are artists who started working with beach plastic over 20 years ago. And that's about the time that the Great Pacific Garbage Patch was actually discovered in the Pacific Ocean. So when they first told me about the problem, I believed them 100%, but I didn't see it here on our beaches. They live in Marin County, and the problem seemed to be more pervasive there at the time. And then about 8 years ago or so, about the time that I found the sad face ball, I started noticing more and more plastic on the beaches. And so that's when I started documenting it through photography.
Yeah, and not another kind of little commentary on your photography. I don't know if you have your masks. I didn't see any pictures of your mask project in here, but I do want to point out to everybody that during the first year of our panorama here, 2020, you dedicated your almost seemingly every waking hour to taking pictures of discarded masks. And I can only describe it that way because I know I was sending you pictures. I was like very, very sending you like maybe like 10 texts and I'm like, oh my God, this is out of control. And yeah, I mean, if you could talk about that really briefly too, because that was just such an incredible, how many did you eventually photograph individually? And I know you made like a big collage of them, but can you just give us a quick rundown on that? That was so interesting.
Yeah, I think I have photographed about 2,000.
That's just
and I still take photos of them as I'm out and about, but when everything locked down and when I couldn't go to the beach and walk, I started walking in the community in Vista and started noticing an ever increasing amount of PPE and decided I would take a photograph of everyone. And then I started graphing them to see how many I was finding on every walk, how far I had walked, where I had walked. And in the beginning, I was seeing mostly gloves, but over time it shifted to mostly masks, as everyone can figure out why that shift happened. But I still, to this day, see gloves around, even though there hasn't been any evidence that coronavirus is spread through surfaces. So at the end of our conversation, maybe I can find that collage and pull it up for people to see. It was actually, did get some recognition. A couple of scientists used it in studies that they were doing about PPE. There was a scientist who was looking at harm to animals, and he used the image, and then another scientist used it who was studying social media and the impacts that social media can have on behavior. So that was that was very gratifying to me, and my obsession paid off.
It did. And
did you find any masks and gloves on the on-ramp this morning?
I found 2. I don't know. I didn't see any gloves. I found 2 masks today. However, I did spend 2 hours this week picking up on Eucalyptus Avenue, and I found a lot more hand sanitizer wipes
Mm.
than I've ever found. And you can tell what they are, they're just those white square, exactly what they are. And I was just seemingly picking them up by the grabber full.
Wow.
So now I'm starting to see a shift in, we're still picking up masks, obviously, but now I'm seeing a lot more of those disposable wipes just being discarded, and it's a lot more than just, oh, it fell out of my pocket or fell out of my car or whatever. Like, it's
Obviously been littered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Just Astrid, if we could see our next slide here.
I wanted to touch on first world for a second.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry. Go back. Oh, I'm so sorry. Jump the gun.
So first world, this one to me reminds me of the fact that people often place the blame for plastic pollution on developing countries. They'll say, oh, all that trash in the ocean came from other places. It didn't come from the United States. Well, regardless of how it ended up in the ocean, the United States is the world's largest producer of plastic. I'm going to read my notes here, so excuse me for a minute. The largest amount of plastic trash in the world, disposing of nearly 92.6 billion pounds of plastic in a year. That's the United States. And in the US produces 6 to 8 times more plastic waste per person than its counterparts in China and India.
Wow.
And then the other piece to that is that we ship a lot of that waste overseas to developing countries, and we count it as having been recycled. It counts in diversion rates for setting diversion goals, but really all it's doing is ending up polluting these countries, these systems that don't have the ability to deal with it. And then we blame them when our debris ends up polluting the environment.
Yep.
Alexis and I, a few
all
years
of that. And that's not even including, the incidental littering that happens during transport, which when you're shipping millions and millions of tons of debris and recyclables and trash in general to be disposed of in another country that just doesn't have the same kind of regulations and stuff, just getting it there is a nightmare. You look at the trash trucks, going through our cities and how much is falling off of those trash trucks into our roads. Well, I wonder what that's doing in our shipping lanes.
Excellent point. I hadn't thought of that, but I was reminded of the fact that you and I and a group hosted by Councilmember Green in Vista visited the Escondido MRF a few years ago. And when we were there, I asked the person who was giving us a tour how much of what they brought in they shipped overseas, and he said 50%. So 50% of the stuff we put, 50% that's not automatically going to the landfill because it's contaminated.
Right.
20% that gets to the EDCO facility is contaminated, and it goes straight to the landfill. So of that 80% that's not contaminated, 50% is shipped overseas.
And do you remember what the percentage that they were actually accepting was? I recall something about like if one container cargo ship had like one, if they audited it and it found one bad batch, that it just, the whole shipment had to go back.
That was when China quit accepting our waste because they were taking a lot of it, and they enacted a law 3 or 4 years ago and said they wouldn't take it anymore unless it was less than 1%, point something percent contaminated. So that essentially meant none of it goes to China. And so
they were our biggest exporter, right? Or our biggest.
Yes. So then they started looking for other markets in Indonesia and so forth. Another point came to mind, but it's gone, so it'll come back.
We'll come back to it. Sure.
Yes.
All right, let's see what we have up here. We have a big gulp, which that looks like a staple American item, and we have Angry Bird. Can you give us a little bit of background on these?
There's no real background on this, just to say that both of those images kind of speak to the emotion that you feel when you're at the beach and finding stuff on the shoreline. You know, often I'll take a big gulp of air because, you know, it kind of knocks the wind out of you when you see it. And then the angry bird is the other side of that, is just the emotion that you feel, the anger that you feel, that we're even having to deal with this.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt walking into that recycling plant in San Marcos. The just
Yeah,
the
it kind of
astonishment.
knocks the wind out of you, and then it kind of knocks the wind out of you, and then you feel like that sad face ball, and then you feel like that angry bird.
Yeah, and it's very much so the arts that I know you're feeling that too.
One thing I want to point out about the photographs is that when I take them, sometimes I take the picture of the item just as I find it, and sometimes I stage them a little bit, because like the angry bird photo there, I want to always have the horizon line in the photo. And I actually did a show inspired by my sister up in San Francisco called On the Horizon. And
okay.
it was because all the images had that horizon line, and then it was also the deeper kind of philosophical thing to think about is what's on the horizon.
Oof. Yeah, I'm sure that was a lovely installation too. All right, let's see what else we have. Ooh, so this is a big one. This is a big one that I know we both feel pretty strongly about. A cool organization that I follow is Balloons Blow on Facebook. Yeah. Lost love, feeling. Yeah, these are, very accurate. If you want to go ahead.
Yeah, so I think there are 9 images of balloons in the gallery here, of Mylar balloons in the gallery. I find them all the time, and people often release them on purpose or on accident, but what they don't think about is they always burst, they always deflate, they always come back to earth, and when they do, they are just litter. Or in the ocean and the environment, they are harmful to animals.
Yeah.
Mark, I believe, is on this, is listening in. Mark is my collaborator with Surfrider Foundation San Diego chapter in the Rise Above Plastics Committee. And he's been one of the leaders of a campaign to ban helium-filled balloons. So the sales of them. It's actually illegal to release Mylar balloons, and there are restrictions. They're supposed to be weighted, and they have little fine print on them that say don't release them. But really the only way to prevent it is to quit buying them, to quit using them. We've all of us, probably everyone here, has accidentally released a balloon. I know I have more than once.
Yeah.
And once you accidentally let go, there it goes. There's nothing you can do. But there are lots of fun alternatives to balloons. You can make paper flower decorations. You can make prayer flags. You can be really creative with recycled materials if they're for decorating purposes. And one thing that we want people to consider is an air-filled balloon on a stick. So you can still hold it up, you can still wave it around, but if you let go of it, you're gonna drop it, you can pick it up, it's not gonna fly away. So
I love that idea.
So if you email, maybe someone could put it in the chat, RAP at surfridersd.org. We can send you some information about a petition that's being circulated that we're asking people to sign and support. This is actually making headway in Encinitas, and they very likely will move forward with some kind of a ban soon.
That's wonderful. And I do hope, I found one on eucalyptus just this week, and it's so sad because you know that at some point it represented something special to somebody. And like you said, no matter what goes up comes down. And now it's a light on the community. And with all their alternatives, it's just mind blowing how we still are still doing this. So another cool alternative that I like to suggest to people is blowing bubbles.
Absolutely.
You know, bubbles are so much fun. Kids love bubbles. I mean, if you could switch gears to blowing bubbles, I think that's a beautiful alternative. So thank you for putting that up. And Delana, if you can, I believe that was WRAP, W-R-A-P. Is that right, Janice?
RAP, Rise Above Plastics.
Oh, Rise. Okay, no, I'm so sorry. No, you had it. My bad. Thank you. Okay, let's see what's next on our. Ooh, okay. So is this an installation that is currently up?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here?
Yes, the poster on the left, I get my left and my right mixed up. I'm a little dyslexic in that way, but those are balloon bits. Those are latex balloon bits. So those aren't Mylar balloons. And latex balloons tend to fragment. And when I take when I take photos of them, when I find them on the beach, often they look like animals. So this one is called Sea Enemies. And the reason why I gave it that title is because going back to balloons and how harmful they are, balloons and balloon fragments are actually the deadliest type of marine pollution for seabirds. So seabirds eat all kinds of plastic. It's not the most prevalent type of plastic that they eat, but if they do eat balloons, it kills almost 1 in 5 of the birds that ingest them. So that's Sea Enemies on the left. And Alphabet Soup is on the right. And that's most people have seen the posters of things in the environment or architectural images that make letters. And I had decided I was going to make a poster using things that I found on the beach that look like letters. And I call this one Alphabet Soup because going back into the current and the garbage patches, people do think of those as being like garbage islands. And the way I have displayed them here, they do kind of look like islands, but the garbage patches, the accumulation of plastics are more like a soup because the plastics break down into smaller and smaller bits called microplastics.
Right.
And so that's really what's swirling around in the gyres out in the ocean. And apparently you can travel for miles through one of those gyres and not see any visible plastic. But if you were to do some trawling, your nets, with the really fine nets, your nets would be full of the tiny microplastics. And it's not just on the surface of the ocean, it's swirling throughout the water column. It's at the, on the surface of the ocean all the way down to the bottom of the ocean. So it's not as easy as going out and just skimming it to clean it up. And then
how long did it take you, specifically on Alphabet Soup, how long did it take you to get all of those pictures? How long did it take you to put that image together with all of those letters?
It took me a long time, and I can't.
Okay, I was just curious.
I'm sitting here under it right now, and I'm trying to remember. A couple of the letters were really hard for me to find. But I can't remember now which ones. But I do find myself, because sometimes it can be overwhelming when you're cleaning the beach or even cleaning the community. So I often focus on something so that, as sad as it is, if the beach is really dirty, I can't possibly clean it all up, right? So, but if I focus on only looking for pink things, or if I focus on looking for letters, or if I focus only on picking up styrofoam, then it kind of grounds me a little bit, and I don't have to worry about getting everything.
Yeah, that picking fatigue can get to you when you realize that you probably should just sit down and start picking stuff up by hand.
Yes.
You know what I mean? When you just get into, especially with the cigarette butts or any kind of situation like that, we know all too well. did you want to say something about petroglyphs? It's a
You know
little
what, I think the next image might be a
Let's see.
close-up of that. Let's see if we can go to the next.
Oh,
one.
perfect. Thank you, Astrid.
Yes. So I called this piece petroglyphs, petrol for petroleum, because the majority of plastic is petroleum based. And when I started creating the shapes, they kind of reminded me of hieroglyphs or of prehistoric petroglyphs. So what it got me to thinking about is that petroglyphs were cultural symbols. We don't really understand, scientists don't understand exactly what they meant to the people who created them. So I started thinking about, well, what will people in the future think of the things that we leave behind? If we move away from a petroleum-based society and plastic eventually is no longer used, and when people reflect on our time in history, what will it say about us? What will it say about our daily lives? What will it say about our modern culture? What will it say about our dependence upon convenience above all else? Because that's kind of what it is. It's us wanting the convenience of the plastic straw, of the plastic utensil, of the drive-through lifestyle. And I think that history is not going to serve us well in, you know, decades, eons out.
Yeah, I agree. Those, if nothing else is left for the future to see, we know that plastics will be. It's probably still around. You know what I mean? And aside from like absolute catastrophic world failure, like these things are gonna outlive most of us. And it is interesting to see what that says about us culturally.
My sister and her husband, they many years ago created a whole installation kind of around this topic, and they did some images of cliff sides, and she's on the call, so maybe she could chime in, but they did some images of cliff sides that showed the layer of plastic that was left behind in the geology of that area.
Yeah, but if we could hear from her, maybe in the Q&A section. I want to go through a couple more of these slides, and then maybe we can start focusing on the Q&As maybe towards the end of our hour. Sure. And then we could talk to her about that. That would be really interesting to hear more about. Here, our next slide here, we have unmasked. I'm just trying to look at it myself and try to, it's fun for me personally to try to figure out what each individual little pieces are, because when you look at it, you're like, oh, this is so fun and all these colors and it's exciting. And then, like I said earlier, once you actually dig down and look at what individually these items are, you're just like, oh my God, what, like, how did this end up in nature? How did this end up in the ocean? So if you could tell us a couple of things, like what is the composition of this piece? What's making up this piece, the best of your knowledge? Oh, we might have lost Janis. Let's see if she'll pop back in. Astrid, did Janis leave the room?
Yes.
Okay, no problem. She'll probably get back on here in just a minute.
Yeah.
We'll just give her a second here. So I'm looking at this piece and it's kind of looking to me like maybe one of those kids sand sifters. I think maybe one of the eye pieces on the yellow side might be some sort of like soda ring or milk container ring. I always like looking at Janis's pieces, like I said, to try to dissect what possibly could have happened and made all these pieces possible. But let's see here. Give Janice a second to pop back in. Let me see if I can. Sure. Delana, do you know if anybody else is there at the gallery?
Dinah was on her way. She was stuck in traffic, so she might be there. It might be it's probably a Wi-Fi issue, so
No problem.
hopefully she can hop back on soon. If not, within the next couple minutes, maybe we can have Janice's sister talk a little bit about her project until she's back on.
Judith, would you like to say a couple things about some past projects you've worked on?
We got Janice back,
Oh, perfect.
joining right now.
Thank you.
Hello,
There you are. No worries.
I joined back. Oh,
The show can't go on without you, my friend. We're waiting for you.
I was hoping you picked up all the slack.
I could never take your place.
A little loud motorcycle just went by. Now I'm all distracted.
It's okay.
So unmasked, just real quickly, unmasked, to unmask something means to reveal the truth of it. So with unmasked, I am suggesting that the truth of plastic pollution needs to be revealed, and ask people who are listening today or anyone who's aware of the problem, what will each of us do to help unmask the problem of plastic pollution? Could it be going to the restaurant when they throw for unnecessary single-use utensils in your bag, just making a kind comment to the person about that? There are several small ways that we can help unmask this problem and help other people become aware.
I love it. And I don't know if you heard me, probably not, because I think we lost you, but do you know what is the composition of this piece? Like, I'm trying to identify some of the individual pieces just for my own curiosity, but that looks like the face, the green piece looks like it's part of like one of those kids sand sifters.
Exactly.
Which was ironically left at the beach.
All too often. It's a very common beach find. I have boxes filled with them. And the black background is a piece of black styrofoam, probably used for packaging.
Oh,
We might have lost her again.
that's okay. But I can see that that's styrofoam now that she said that. Just give her a second. If anybody has any questions that they would like to pose to Janice here towards the end of the presentation, you can add them in the chat. If you haven't checked out the chat, I would encourage you to go through the log here and write down some of the information if you want to be added to any of these email lists or want to find more information about what's going on locally. We do have some of that information in the chat. Just give her a little bit of time here. Hey, Dinah. There we go. You got to unmute, babe. There we go.
Yay.
Yay.
Okay. Did you show the last image of the slide with the portrait of me?
You know what? Let's go see what the next. There we go.
I just wanted to share that I did that image in collaboration with my friend Margaret Boyson. I went down to her photo studio with a bunch of blue plastic, obviously, and she surrounded me. And it's called Drowning in Plastic, which is how I feel and what I think that we are all doing at this point in time. So I just wanted to give her credit for the image before we concluded.
Yeah, no, this is a beautiful image and powerful, very powerful.
Thank you.
Whew. Let's see here. Did we have any other slides that we needed to go through?
No, that's the end.
Perfect. Do we have anybody that'd like to pop in with a question for Janis?
Feel free to type your question or you can jump on and unmute yourself.
Yeah, anybody. She said at the beginning, no hard hitting questions, but you know what? I have a feeling she'll be able to, she'll be able to take whatever you can lob at her. I do want to point out today that you can, if you're in the North County Oceanside area, you can stop into the in-person opening that's going to be at the Hill Street Country Club today, I believe 5 to 7 p.m. If you could please and make sure that you're masked when you come in. And yeah, Miss Janis, you're going to be there to answer questions in person. Wonderful.
Yes.
I look forward to seeing you later. Let's see here. We have a question from Edwina. How open are you to teaching a non-credit course at Maricosta CLC that explores photography and environmental justice?
Edwina, I love you so much. I just need you to know this. Edwina and I go way back, but I haven't seen her in a very long time. She came to the school where I was working and developed the most amazing program with our kids through her nonprofit called Project Like. And we worked really closely together for some time. And then I left that school and we drifted apart. And she is another one of those members of our North County community who are really making a difference. And Edwina, we need to chat about that and many other things. So I am really intrigued by that idea.
And can I say that I would also like more information on that, because that sounds like a absolute delight. I would love to be the content matter. And then of course, if you're teaching it, that would be amazing. So yes. Is there any other, oh, no worries, Edwin, we got you, girl. Is there anybody else that has any questions, comments for Janis? Give people a second.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I am curious to know your relationship with art, being an artist and being like an activist, and when those two things crossed paths, and what was your relationship to art before the plastics, using the plastics?
Well, I've always been a doodler and I come from an artistic family. I think I mentioned that my sister is a professional artist. My mother was a hobby artist who sold her work at like street fairs and things. So I grew up with that, but I've had a really hard time calling myself an artist throughout my life, even though I've always drawn and created. Until I discovered this medium, and that changed things for sure. But I think everything that I create using plastic material is created as a statement. If you look at my Instagram and read my posts, I almost always dive fairly deep into the image and what it represents. And so in that way, everything that I do is artivism.
Oh, I like that. And you know what, Janice? I don't know if we put your Instagram handle in the chat, but I can add it right now. Janice.
I probably write more than most people have an attention span to read in this day and age, but I do it for myself as much as for others also, because as I'm creating pieces, I do a lot of research and think about what the item is or what the composition is, what the collage is.
You are a wealth of knowledge. I have to say that every time we hang out, I walk away with more knowledge than I came with, and it's such a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you. And, you know, thank you for hosting, Alexis. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, my friend. I'm so glad you ended up hosting, and I'm so grateful to the Hill Street Country Club, to Only Losers Litter, to Backfence Society, to Surfrider, to my sister, to everyone who inspires me every day. I've been asked the question about, you know, how do you continue to feel hopeful, and how do you continue to do this work when it seems like an impossible challenge? But it's people like you that give me hope. It's people like you who keep me going every day. And I'm just so grateful for the community I have kind of gathered myself within. It's like a blanket I'm wrapped in that just keeps me going.
Oh, that makes me feel so good. Absolutely. Janice, you're so wonderful. Yes, thank you absolutely to Hill Street Country Club for this virtual opening. Thank you, Elena and Dinah, for reaching out to me to host today. This was awesome. I love trash talking with Janice any day of the week.
You know what question I was hoping you would ask me is, what's the weirdest thing you've ever found?
Oh, ooh, I see, but I don't know if I want to know the answer, and I don't know if we can talk about it recorded, but yes, Janice, please, can you give us real fast, what is the weirdest thing that you've ever found trash picking?
Well, on the beach, dentures and dentures, and you can end the recording if you want to. I've also found a toe tag that was from someone who passed away on the East Coast. I don't know how that toe tag made it to the beach here in Carlsbad.
Wow.
And then the other weird thing on the off ramp, can I mention the bags of things?
Yes.
One recently, when we were cleaning up the Melrose on ramp, we found 2 bags full of, plug your ears if you're sensitive, dead chickens, feathered dead chickens, 2 bags of them. Who drives down the highway throwing bags of dead chickens out the back of their truck?
Somebody. And that, yeah.
So with that charming visual,
yeah.
if you can't, anyone who can't come tonight and is interested, we're going to be doing by appointment, and we're going to be hosting a few panel discussions, and I plan to do a family workshop. So there'll be other opportunities.
Yeah, and you know what? Hill Street Country Club is open by appointment, and your exhibit will be up running through, let's see, I had it on my notes, through October 9th. So if anybody wants to contact Hill Street Country Club to figure out an appointment to see this installation in person, if you're going to miss it this evening, or some of these other opportunities that Janice just mentioned, feel free to reach out to them to make sure you get in. So yeah, I think that with that, we can wrap up. And Dinah, if there's anything else that you would like to add?
Thank you.
Thank you, Dinah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, don't forget, like, there's gonna be some amazing guest speakers. You know, Janice has her sister and brother-in-law and scientists and like an activist who just won like a big case in New Orleans. So like, please make sure you dial in and keep up.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you, Dinah. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity in this beautiful space.
Yeah, it's only beautiful with art in it. Bye, you guys.
Bye, everyone.